Hey, welcome to the Voices of Wall Street. I have with me a very special guest, and I think the best possible guest I could have today. We've been doing that on the Voices of Wall Street, but today I think we've outdone ourselves. We have, coming off of a big, booming, blowout earnings report, a record earnings report, Jeremy Wacksman. He is the president of Zillow. Jeremy, thanks so much for being with us on the Voices of Wall Street.
Thanks for having me. I feel like you say that to all your guests, but I'll take it.
No, I do not. Most of them are just like, oh yeah, we got some guy here, and then we just kind of go on. But no, I'm very excited about. Let's dig into this earnings report a little bit because that came out. Obviously, investors very excited about that. But what I think they're really excited about is your appearance on SNL over the weekend. That got a lot of folks talking.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. And I don't know if you know with things like SNL, like you don't get a heads up. That's not something that we do. That just happened to us, and it kind of blew up our weekend. But I think what's exciting
Yeah.
about it is obviously it's great for us, but it really hits at this cultural moment that I think Zillow surfing is having. And I think the skit worked so
Mm.
well, and we all laughed at it so much because there's really a truth in it that this is becoming our pastime more and more. We're seeing that in our traffic. We're seeing record traffic to our website. You're seeing that in transactions, right? You're seeing home transactions at kind of all-time highs. So this idea that people want to move, and by the way, they're kind of stuck at home having to change their activities and spend more time Zillow surfing.
Yeah.
I think there's a kernel of truth in that. So yeah, we were flattered and kind of flabbergasted by it. It was exciting.
Yeah, for those who haven't seen the skit on SNL about Zillow scrolling was the big thing. Here it is. So yeah, that's the skit, Jeremy. So I want to talk about this earnings report that came out because while folks are always going to be talking about what goes on in SNL, I think investors were really excited about your earnings report, record earnings. Talk to me a little bit about why 2020 was such a successful year for Zillow.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were really pleased with the results in Q4. We beat expectations on a consolidated basis and across our segments. And I think what we're the most excited about is that we were able to navigate and really come out of the pandemic thriving while also moving the company to a cloud headquarters, to a distributed workforce. When 2020 started, we didn't know what was coming. And I'm really proud the team navigated that really gracefully and has executed really well. But the other big piece of this is, we were a full in-office culture, and we're now going to be a distributed company where, most of our employees will only be in the office part-time or remote, and the offices and our location footprint will spread US wide. And it'll give us an amazing opportunity to attract and retain talent from more locations than we were in, and hopefully continue to grow Zillow Group.
Mm. And one thing that the haters would say, obviously you look at what's going on with the stock right now, there's not a lot of them, but something that haters would say is they would point out that your revenue was actually down from Q4 a year ago, 789 million in this quarterly report versus 943 million a year ago, and that you were able to get those record profits by cutting costs rather than by increasing revenue. What do you say to folks who point that out and who say, this company isn't really going where it should be?
Yeah, I mean, the year over years are going to be tough with the pandemic, right? Because we paused home buying in the middle of the year. And so if you think about home buying as, Zillow Offers as our as the business that was growing throughout 2019 and 2020, when we paused, which was due to sort of uncertainty about whether transactions could happen back in March, that pause and that gap has to work its way through the system. So as you saw, we're returning to kind of 2019 acquisition levels in terms of purchases. And so that business is rescaling. But that blip in ramp, you're going to see play out, and then you're going to see similar things happen, I think, with the category as people lap the pandemic effects. So, year over years are typically a great metric. And in this case, for a consolidated basis, that's why you see that difference. But that's why you look at our segments and you look at our internet and media segment and what it's doing year over year, and our mortgage segment, and then you look at consolidated. So the combination of the businesses growing and yes, the cost discipline to navigate the pandemic are what you see in Q4, and then also what you see in what we've put out for our outlook.
Yeah, absolutely. But the other thing I think folks would say is, well, that's true, but 2020 was also this record year. The housing market absolutely boomed because of, I think, a lot of that pent-up demand. So Zillow then should have been able to translate that into higher revenues, even, getting over that billion mark.
Yeah, again, it goes back to the difference between homes revenue and internet media revenue, right? Our IMT segment is putting up record revenue and very accelerated year-over-year growth rates, both in Q4 and what we've guided to in Q1. So that's probably the better staple on an apples to apples basis, because we didn't shut that business down, right, for 3 to 6 months. So, and you look at that growth rate, in the 30s, as well as the margin on that business. So you're right. I mean, I think the pause is going to cause a lot of odd comps year over year, but the record real estate market, we think, is something that is also here to stay, and we talked about that a bit yesterday on the call as well. This great reshuffling that we talk a lot about, everyone rethinking what it means to be at home and what they want out of their home. You're seeing that in not just our traffic and in Zillow surfing, you're seeing that in transactions and in home prices, and we think that's going to continue, because people in many industries now are going to rethink what they need out of their living space. That may be the folks that are living at home. That may be the folks that their commute is a different priority, or what they could tolerate in their commute. And it may just be a distributed and hybrid school environment for their kids. But everyone is rethinking what home means. And that's why we're forecasting the transaction volumes and the home prices that we're going to see in we think in this year and for a while to come.
Yeah, and you talked about that traction. I mean, Zillow's websites and apps received 2.2 billion visits during the fourth quarter. Those are just stupid numbers. And we're seeing a lot of that traffic coming from millennials who are just now getting into home buying, but also Gen Z. Can you just talk to us a little bit about millennials and Gen Z home buying and how that really is helping to boost Zillow? Because, for a while, folks were wondering, were millennials ever going to buy homes, right? Yeah. Were millennials ever going to get out of their parents' basements? Things like that. But now it seems like not just the older millennials who are in their 30s and moving into their 40s, but also Gen Z is looking at stores or sites like Zillow.
Yeah, I think it's funny, if you turn the clock back a few years, there was a narrative, and we actually did a bunch of research to learn a little more. We started a great housing study we do every year now, about, hey, are millennials just never going to buy homes? Is the sharing economy just going to change? And it turned out, no. Millennials have always had the same dreams, the same great American dream around ownership and wanting a place that's their own. They just frankly couldn't afford it, right? I mean, home prices had raised way past incomes, and rates were higher then. And so they had to wait until they graduated in. Well, now, the average first-time home buyer is a millennial. I think it's in their low 30s is the average age for a home buyer. So they're here, and now they're here navigating the pandemic, which is its own set of challenges. But what that's brought is, yes, the demand that is, one of the largest segments we've had, right, since the boomers, but also the expectations for how the process is to change, right? And so we at Zillow have been, I would say, methodically working on bringing the offline experience online and bringing e-commerce to real estate, which is really hard because you're buying the place you're going to live and you're having to work with dozens of parties to get that transaction done. And so slowly but surely, things like being able to sign things remotely and notarize things remotely, things like being able to use an app to open the door on your schedule, or being able to virtually tour a house before you actually take the time to go see it and make sure you want to go see it. Those things were all coming, and we were working on them, but the pandemic really accelerated the demand for those things, from years into months, because safety all of a sudden drove people to find those solutions and drove agents and owners to use those solutions to market their home. So that trend has been accelerated, and that is in welcome ears and arms of the younger home buyer who comes into this category for the first time and says, wait, why doesn't this work like the other buttons on my phone?
Right.
Why do I still have to leave my phone? Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, that gets me into, what you focus on particularly. I know you oversee Zillow Offers, which has been a big factor for the increased guidance that you all put out in March. You're forecasting homes revenue is going to nearly double quarter over quarter, from about $304 million to $595 million, if I'm correct. Tell me about Zillow Offers, what you're doing there, and why this thing is going to be one of the big growth catalysts for the company.
Yeah, and so again, back to coming out of that pause, right? You're seeing the reacceleration of Zillow Offers, and the reality is Zillow Offers is still very small, right? It's less than 1% of the market, and we had to pause last year.
I think less than 1% of U.S. homes overall are bought and sold online, right?
That's right, and what Zillow Offers is this promise of, for a home seller who doesn't want to go through the hassle and or wants the certainty of what they could get for their home in understanding their sale price upfront and getting cash upfront. Zillow Offers provides that certainty and that hassle avoidance. And we actually put a great testimony out yesterday about someone who lived in their house for 44 years and couldn't imagine taking on all of just the deferred maintenance and the fix-ups to get it ready to list. And so they they effectively traded it in to Zillow, and we're going to sell it for them, right? We took the house, we'll make the repairs and fixes they need, we'll quickly list it, and we'll find a buyer, right? And so that's the promise of Zillow Offers. And the benefit of that, obviously, is the home seller gets their cash up front. They know what their buying power is on their next home. And in that case, that customer worked with one of our premier agent partners to buy, and they were able to sell and buy at the same time. And then they could avoid the hassle of having to move twice or having to figure out, well, if the close of my first home and the close of my second home are on the same time, what am I going to do? Or paying, mortgage twice. So they were able to synchronize the purchase and the sale. And again, that starts to get towards this kind of one-click nirvana we want to see when we can transact real estate that's not coming. But you can see the promise of Zillow Offers. When we can help you sell the house, we can also then be the fulcrum for the transaction itself and the move, and you can pivot everything around that. And so in that case, but that's what Zillow Offers is. And the growth is us really getting back to, the ramp we were on in all of our markets. So we're in 25 markets nationwide. But as you pointed out, it's still really small and it's still very nascent. And the biggest challenge we have with Zillow Offers is most people still don't understand what it is. And so I just explained it to you and your head nodded, but you ask 100 Americans what that is and they go, they kind of look at you sideways. And so we have a long way to go to help people understand this is a really powerful tool you could use when you're thinking about moving.
Yeah, it seems like it's a bit like those old school, I buy ugly houses kind of thing, where Zillow just comes in and buys the house as is from these homeowners who are maybe not going to get the maximum value for their home, but can just sell it right off the bat without having to deal with all of the hassle that comes with that comes with selling a house.
I think the biggest misconception about Zillow Offers is that it is one of those discount purchasers, because those companies have been around for a long time. Those companies make their money by having to flip the home and make a profit on that home, right? What Zillow Offers does is we actually make market value offers. Our goal is to understand exactly what your market value is and express that to you transparently. In fact, we want the Zestimate on our home to be a live offer saying what your house is worth. Our goal is to make money with all the surrounding services and make a very small margin on the house itself, as opposed to flipping the house, which is, I think, what a lot of those folks do. And you're right, that concept is foreign to a lot of people. And what you just said is where a lot of people go, oh, this is kind of like house flipping, and it's not, right? Because the more we can make market value offers, the cheaper we can get the fee, the cost to holding the home. And at scale, we think us selling the house will actually be cheaper than you selling the house, right? Because we have institutional buying power on the renovation and on the hold time and on the transaction platform itself. You have to pay all those costs by yourself. And if we can do that at a scale, we can actually offer that service maybe even cheaper than you had to do it on your own. So the goal is to get there, because that's what will grow transaction volume. That's what will allow us to help more people move and help drive all of the ancillary businesses that come with the move.
Right. And that was actually, I think, one of the big reasons that Loop Ventures is so bullish on you guys and this Zillow 2.0 model that you guys have coming out. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because Loop is saying that they expect you guys to triple the value in about 3 years. Your value is, I think it was 47 billion fully diluted when I checked earlier today. With the way the stock is going, that's probably going to be 48, 49 billion. But is that realistic, tripling the value in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think what people are starting to understand a little more is the Zillow 2.0 strategy around this move to transactions. And so, the first 10, 15 years, we were mostly a media business, right? Our job and our goal was to help people dream about moving and then hand them off to someone else and sort of say good luck. And we worked really hard to find the best partners to hand them off to, but we weren't actually helping make the transaction better itself. And now in Zillow 2.0, this transaction business, Zillow Offers, our home loans business, our title and escrow, our closing services business, where when that customer we talked about, comes and works with us, they are using one of our great premier agents, they are trading into us, they are using our home loans, and they're closing on our transaction platform. And that seamless experience where we are actually helping power and improve and make more seamless the transaction, that's a much larger TAM, right, for investors to think about. but that also allows us to help the customer with more of their services. So I think that's why you're seeing investors kind of better understand what Zillow Offers, represents as potential, but more so what this transaction, future looks like for Zillow Group and for our category.
But Jeremy, the question was, can you triple in 5 years? Is that realistic?
Well, I mean, I'm not here to talk about, short-term, long-term stock price. I think as you've watched over the last couple of years, we've been really focused on executing on the strategy, and you're seeing Zillow Offers grow. We're really pleased with the growth on Zillow Home Loans and the transaction platform. We now have our closing services live in all the markets that Zillow Offers is serving. And so most customers who come to us now don't just trade in with us, they actually use our closing services. And so that's, again, that one-stop shop starting to come together. So we're pretty focused on building and scaling that platform. As you said, it's a really small part of the market today, and it has the power to be much bigger. And what we get most excited about, again, going back to that story, when a customer comes, they have a better experience and they use all of our services, right? That customer used Zillow Offers. They used one of our premier agents to find their next home and figure out where to buy. And they used our home loans and our closing platform. And so that's the power and the potential. And that's where all of our businesses will benefit.
Yeah. So I talked to a couple real estate agents. I actually have been myself looking for a home, been using Zillow. And the real estate agents who I talked to, they've got a couple things to say to you, as I'm sure you can imagine. But the big criticism that I heard from them is they said real estate will always be a physical transaction. It requires a physical touch. That, there are parts to this that you need a person and you need people to walk you through literally and figuratively, and that there's no way this will ever completely move online, and that iBuying, they're bearish on it, to say the least. What's your response to some of these real estate agents and their criticisms? Obviously, you're the competition, but it's not to say they don't have a point.
Yeah, I mean, we think real estate will always have a partner and a physical component, and I think that's why you see our biggest business is our agent business, and so we think they go hand in hand. That said, we think the process should become more seamless and more digital, so that your real estate agent can actually be your advisor, your wealth manager, your partner, not spend time doing the menial things that technology can do, right? In the same way in Wall Street, where you could elevate people into wealth management jobs because technology can handle the nuts and bolts of the project and the trading. There's a lot of wasted time and effort in the transaction. That's a cost. That's a cost to our great real estate agent partners that they have to do. And it's something that technology can help with. So we actually see a very similar future. And it's why, again, go back to that story, that customer used Zillow Offers, they used our agent partner, and they used our loan officer. And those people and those advisors and guides are not going anywhere as you make the single biggest financial decision you make, but also something you won't do very often. It's a very infrequent transaction. So the local market knowledge, the way to navigate the specific situation, making sure it's right for you, helping you negotiate. Most folks, we think high 80% of folks are always going to want a partner. What we're excited about is helping arm those partners to be the best partner and let them do what they do best, supported with the best technology platform. So we think about it very much as an and.
Yeah. All right. And I also want to ask you about we talked a lot about the past, but let's talk now about the future and what's coming up. You announced during your earnings call that you acquired ShowingTime.com, $500 million. Why was that an important acquisition for you all? What's the plans for that? And then looking forward into 2021, what's Zillow got planned?
Yeah, I mean, I think ShowingTime is a great example of the last conversation we were having about the power of technology and the power of an agent and a human partner and a coach. ShowingTime runs the largest booking platform in the industry. Almost every agent uses it, because think about booking a tour. You have to have like 4 parties get involved, right? The buyer, the seller, often the buyer's agent and the seller's agent. And so all this coordination has to happen. When's it available? When am I getting out of the house? Well, they are scheduling, 50 million plus tours for everyone who's trying to sell homes. And the biggest problem with tours is the fact that so many of them go unmatched, and the timing challenge works out. So if we can help the agents who represent most of these buyers and sellers make those tour marriages happen more often, more frequently, well, that's going to reduce the friction, right? That's going to let buyers see more houses and maybe find their house faster. And it's going to let sellers maybe sell their house faster. So it's going to help create economic return for the entire industry. So touring to us is such a critical component, especially in this offline to online move where people are getting more empowered and informed on their phone. And then when they want to go see it, they want to go see it. So if we can help our agent partners and every agent in the industry do a better job getting the touring to happen, that will reduce friction. So that's why we bought it. And that's, again, it's another example of sort of bringing the offline online for the benefit of, technology plus human.
Yeah. All right. And so what about 2021? What do you guys got planned? Break some news. Tell me what you guys are unveiling this year that you haven't told anybody else about.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I have no news to drop with you other than what we've talked about this week.
Come on, Jeremy. We bring you on the Voices of Wall Street. The people are listening.
We're really excited about 2021. Again, we talked a lot about this move to transactions. So you're going to see us continue to grow and scale Zillow Offers, and you're going to see us continue to work on these innovations to bring digital to what's been a physical industry, right? So we talked about how, we talked a bit about remote touring and letting people get in. You just heard about a big acquisition we did all around helping touring in the physical world get a little easier with your phone. And you're going to see us continue to innovate on things you started to hear about. Your Zestimate is going to become, an offer on your house in more and more markets as the confidence in that Zestimate and the pricing, gets ready for you. Imagine showing up on Zillow and you say, I want to sell my house, and you have options. You can maybe trade it into us. You can maybe work with a great partner, or you can get a bunch of education about what it's going to cost you to sell so you can start to go plan to buy and to find a loan. So we're excited about a bunch of those coming.
All right, let me ask you this. 5 years from now, we're having the same conversation. You've just reported earnings. I'm sure the stock will be through the roof, a $1 trillion company. What will we be talking about as far as what Zillow has done and how you've changed the landscape?
Yeah, we'll be looking back and we'll be saying that the e-commerce and online demands we all have for every app on our phone finally came to real estate. And we're going to be talking about how more people are able to move because the friction and the pain and the hassle associated with actually moving and buying and selling has come down. And we'll hopefully be talking about more moves. And we'll be looking back at the economic data and said, wow, we reduced friction, we increased certainty, we increased speed. In most markets, when you do that, you see more transactions, and the demand is there, right? We talked about it at the start of this conversation. The SNL skit is not, is not made up for no reason, right? People want to move, they want to dream, they feel very stuck in their home, and the transaction costs are expensive. So, if we can do all that, the process will be better. We won't be talking about the headaches of the process, and we'll also be talking about more people realizing their dreams.
All right. Jeremy Wacksman, president of Zillow. Thank you so much for being with us on the Voices of Wall Street.
Great. Thanks for having me.